Listen carefully, because this is where your life changes. You keep saying, I'll believe in myself when I see results. No, that's not how greatness works. You don't get results first. You get belief first. And right now, the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a decision to trust yourself without evidence. Because let me tell you something powerful. Every successful person you admire, they were once invisible, unknown, doubtful, scared, but they made one bold move. They believed before it made sense. You're waiting for confidence. Confidence is built through action. You're waiting for clarity. Clarity comes after you start moving. You're waiting for the perfect moment. That moment doesn't exist. What exists is now, right now. You either choose to step forward or stay stuck. And if you stay stuck, it won't be because you're not capable. It'll be because you didn't trust yourself enough to try. So I need you to shift something in your mind today. Stop asking, what if I fail? Start asking, what if I become everything I'm meant to be? Because your future is not built on guarantees. It's built on courage. Courage to wake up when you don't feel like it. Courage to keep going when nobody is watching. Courage to believe when nothing is working yet. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, not background, belief. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to push you. Nobody is coming to believe in you. That job is yours. So stand up in your own life. Take responsibility for your mindset. Take control of your actions. And every single day, prove to yourself, not the world, that you are becoming stronger, sharper, more focused, because one day the results will show up, and when they do, people will call you lucky. But you'll know the truth. You believed when there was nothing to see. Now go act like it. Belief comes before proof. That is the line most people hear, but very few actually live. Because living it means stepping forward when nothing around you is confirming that you're on the right path. It means waking up every single day and choosing to trust a vision that only you can see. No applause, no guarantees, no visible progress, just you and your decision to keep going anyway. Understand this, proof is the reward, not the requirement. The world does not hand you evidence so you can feel ready. The world responds to the energy you carry, the actions you take, and the standard you set for yourself long before results show up. If you wait to see something before you believe in it, you will stay exactly where you are. Because everything meaningful in life demands that you move first. You want confidence? It is not given to you, it is built. It is built every time you show up when you don't feel like it. It is built when you keep a promise to yourself that nobody else even knows about. It is built when you push through doubt instead of negotiating with it. Confidence is not loud in the beginning. It's quiet. It's disciplined. It's consistent. And over time, it becomes unshakable. Most people are trapped in a cycle of hesitation. They think they need motivation to start. They think they need clarity to move. They think they need support to continue. But the truth is, all of those things come after you take the first step. You don't feel ready and then act. You act, and then readiness catches up with you. That's the shift. That's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who transform their lives. There will be days when your mind tries to convince you that it's not working. Days when nothing seems to be changing. Days when quitting feels easier than continuing. And in those moments, your belief will be tested, not when things are easy, not when results are visible, but when everything is uncertain. That's where real belief is formed. That's where your identity is shaped. You have to learn to trust the process before it pays you. You have to respect the work before it rewards you. Because success is not something that appears overnight. It's something that builds quietly, layer by layer, decision by decision. Every small action you take is stacking something. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are reinforcing the person you are becoming. Stop looking around for validation. Stop measuring your progress against other people's timelines. What you are building is yours. Your path is yours. And it will unfold at its own pace, but only if you stay committed to it. The moment you start doubting yourself based on what you don't see yet, you break your own momentum. You interrupt your own growth. You have to become the person who keeps going even when it's boring, even when it's repetitive, even when it feels like nothing is happening, because something is always happening. You are building strength. You are building discipline. You are building resilience. These are the foundations that results are built on. Without them, even success cannot be sustained. Fear will show up. Doubt will show up. That's not a sign to stop. That's a sign that you're moving in a direction that matters. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't feel anything. Growth is uncomfortable. Progress is uncomfortable. But discomfort is not your enemy. It is your signal that you are stepping beyond who you used to be. You cannot afford to wait for perfect conditions. You cannot afford to keep delaying your potential, because every day you hesitate is a day you could have been building something greater. Every moment you spend doubting yourself is energy that could have been used to move forward. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. and then do it again tomorrow. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but consistently, because consistency is what turns belief into reality. It is what transforms effort into evidence. At some point, things will start to shift. Not all at once, but gradually. You will notice that what once felt difficult is now normal. What once felt impossible is now achievable. And the results you were waiting for will begin to appear, not because they suddenly showed up, but because you became the person capable of creating them. And when that moment comes, when the proof finally stands in front of you, it will not surprise you, because deep down you already knew. You decided long ago that you were not going to wait for permission, not going to wait for certainty, not going to wait for the world to agree with you. You chose to believe first. Your mind is your first battlefield. Long before anything happens in your life, the war is already being fought inside your thoughts. Before success shows up, before failure hits, before anyone else sees your effort, there is a silent conflict happening within you. A conflict between doubt and belief, between fear and courage, between excuses and action. And the truth is simple. If you lose in your mind, you lose everywhere else. Every excuse you make, every hesitation you feel, every moment you choose comfort over growth, it all begins with a thought. A single thought that says, maybe I'm not ready. A voice that whispers, what if I fail? And if you don't take control of that voice, it will control you. It will shrink your potential. It will keep you stuck. It will convince you that staying the same is safer than becoming something greater. You have to understand that your mind does not automatically work in your favor. It is designed to protect you, to keep you within familiar limits, to avoid risk. But growth requires risk. Progress requires discomfort. And if you allow your mind to operate on fear, it will keep pulling you back every time you try to move forward. This is where discipline begins. Not in your actions, but in your thinking. You have to train your mind the same way you train your body. You have to challenge negative thoughts, replace limiting beliefs, and refuse to entertain ideas that weaken you. Because every thought you accept becomes a direction. And every direction leads you somewhere. Most people are not failing because they lack ability. They are failing because they are losing the battle in their own heads. They overthink, they doubt, they hesitate, they wait for certainty that never comes. And while they are stuck in analysis, life keeps moving without them. But the moment you decide to take control of your mind, everything begins to shift. Not instantly, not magically, but powerfully. You start to notice that you are no longer reacting to fear. You are acting in spite of it. You are no longer waiting for motivation. You are creating it through movement. You are no longer asking for permission. You are giving it to yourself. There will still be resistance. There will still be moments when your mind tries to pull you back into old patterns. That is part of the process. That is part of the fight. But the difference now is that you are aware. You recognize the voice of doubt. And instead of obeying it, you challenge it. You move anyway. Because winning this battle is not about eliminating fear. It is about refusing to let fear decide your actions. It is about standing firm in your decisions, even when your emotions are unstable. It is about choosing growth over comfort again and again until it becomes your default. You have to become ruthless with your thoughts. Not negative, but intentional. You cannot allow every random doubt to take control of your direction. You cannot let temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions. You have to step back, observe what you are thinking, and ask yourself one question. Is this thought helping me move forward, or is it holding me back? If it is holding you back, it has no place in your mind. Replace it, strengthen it, redirect it. This is not easy. It requires effort. It requires consistency. It requires you to be honest with yourself in ways that most people avoid. But that is exactly why it works. Because while others are letting their minds control them, you are mastering yours. And once you begin to win in your mind, your actions start to align. You stop procrastinating. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You begin to move with purpose, with clarity, with direction. Not because everything is easy, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. That is the real breakthrough. Not when the world changes, not when circumstances improve, but when your internal environment becomes stronger than any external challenge, when your belief becomes louder than your doubt, when your focus becomes stronger than your distractions, because at that point, nothing can truly stop you. Obstacles will come, but they will not defeat you. Challenges will appear, but they will not break you, because you have already won the most important battle, the one within. And when you control your mind, you control your direction. When you control your direction, you control your life. Stop waiting for validation. That habit is quietly destroying your potential, draining your confidence, and keeping you stuck in a cycle where your progress depends on other people's opinions. Every time you hesitate, every time you look around for approval, Every time you question your worth based on someone else's reaction, you are giving away your power. Understand this clearly. No one is coming to approve your dreams. No one is responsible for recognizing your value before you do. And if you keep waiting for someone to tell you that you're ready, you will wait forever. Because the world does not reward hesitation. It responds to action. It moves for those who move first, not for those who stand still hoping to be noticed. You have been conditioned to seek validation. From a young age, you were taught to look for approval, grades, praise, acceptance, recognition. And while that may have helped you fit NTO systems, it does not help you stand out in life. Because growth requires independence. It requires you to make decisions without applause, to take risks without guarantees, and to trust yourself without external confirmation. The moment you rely on validation, you become dependent. Dependent on opinions that change. Dependent on people who may not understand your vision. Dependent on circumstances that are outside your control. And that dependency weakens your ability to act. It slows you down. It makes you second-guess yourself. It keeps you trapped in a version of yourself that is waiting instead of becoming. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't even need most people to understand you. What you need is a strong internal standard, a clear decision about who you are becoming and what you are willing to do to get there. Because when your standards are internal, your actions become consistent. They are no longer influenced by praise or criticism. They are driven by purpose. There will be moments when people doubt you. Moments when they question your choices. Moments when they fail to see what you see. That is not your signal to stop. That is your test. A test of whether you are building your life based on your own vision or based on other people's comfort. If you allow doubt from others to slow you down, you will never reach anything meaningful. Because anything meaningful requires you to go beyond what is normal, beyond what is accepted, beyond what is expected. And that kind of path will never be fully supported at the beginning. It will feel lonely. It will feel uncertain. But that is exactly where growth happens. You have to learn to validate yourself through action, not through words, not through empty motivation, but through discipline, through consistency, through showing up again and again, even when nobody is watching, even when nobody is clapping, even when nobody is noticing, because the real confidence comes from knowing that you are doing what you said you would do. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. It comes from building a track record that you can rely on, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Stop asking for permission to start. Stop asking if it's the right time. Stop asking if you're good enough. Those questions will never give you the answer you want, because the answer is not something you find. It is something you create through action. Every step you take builds evidence. Every effort you make strengthens your identity. Every time you move forward without validation, you are reinforcing a powerful truth that you are in control of your own direction. There will be discomfort in this process. There will be moments of doubt, moments where you question yourself, moments where the silence from others feels heavy. But that silence is not rejection, it is space. Space for you to grow without distraction. Space for you to focus without noise. Space for you to become stronger without depending on approval. And over time, something shifts. You stop looking around for confirmation. You stop measuring your worth based on reactions. You stop needing anyone to agree with you. Because you have built something stronger, a belief in yourself that is rooted in action, not opinion. At that point, validation becomes irrelevant. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not break you. You remain steady, focused, and committed to your path. Not because it is easy, but because it is yours. And that is where real power begins. When you no longer need permission to move. When you no longer wait to be chosen, when you choose yourself fully and completely and back that choice with relentless action. Consistency beats motivation every single time, because motivation is unpredictable, unstable, and temporary. It comes and goes based on how you feel, and if your progress depends on how you feel, then your progress will always be inconsistent. Some days you will feel unstoppable, and other days, you will feel nothing at all. And if you only act on the days you feel inspired, you will never build anything strong enough to last. Consistency is different. It does not ask you how you feel. It does not wait for the perfect mood. It does not care if you are tired, distracted, or uncertain. It operates on a simple principle: show up and do the work no matter what. And that is where real growth begins, not in moments of excitement, but in moments of discipline. You have to understand that motivation is a spark, but consistency is the engine. A spark can start something, but it cannot sustain it. It cannot carry you through the days when progress is slow, when results are invisible, when everything feels repetitive. Only consistency can do that. Only the habit of showing up again and again can build something meaningful over time. Most people are addicted to motivation. They wait for it. They chase it. They try to recreate the feeling of being inspired instead of building the habit of being committed. And because of that, they start strong but fade quickly. They push hard for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then they stop when the feeling disappears. Not because they are incapable, but because they never trained themselves to move without emotion. But the truth is, the days you don't feel like doing the work are the days that matter the most. Those are the days that separate average from exceptional. Anyone can show up when they feel good. Anyone can work when they are motivated. But very few people can push forward when they feel nothing, when they are tired, when they are distracted, when they would rather do anything else. That is where discipline takes over. That is where consistency becomes your advantage. You have to create a standard for yourself that does not change based on your mood. A standard that says, I do this because it is who I am, not because I feel like it. And once you build that identity, everything shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. You stop delaying action. You simply do the work. Because that is what you have decided. There will be days when your energy is low, days when your focus is weak, days when nothing seems to be working. But consistency does not require perfection. It requires effort. Even if you can only give a small amount, you still show up. Because showing up maintains momentum. It keeps the process alive. It reinforces the habit. And over time, those small, consistent actions begin to compound. They build strength. They build skill, they build confidence, not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily. And that steady progress is far more powerful than short bursts of intense effort followed by long periods of inactivity. You cannot rely on emotion to carry your future. Emotions are temporary, they change constantly. But systems, habits, and routines, those are stable, those are reliable, those are what create long-term success. So instead of asking yourself if you feel motivated, ask yourself if you are committed. Because commitment does not depend on feeling, it depends on decision. A decision that you will continue no matter how slow it feels, no matter how difficult it becomes, no matter how long it takes. You have to become comfortable with repetition, comfortable with doing the same thing over and over again without immediate reward, because that is how mastery is built. That is how progress becomes permanent. At first it will feel difficult, it will feel forced. You will have to push yourself. But over time, consistency becomes easier. It becomes automatic. It becomes part of your identity. And once it reaches that point, you no longer rely on motivation at all. You simply move forward every single day without hesitation, without excuses, without waiting, and that is when everything begins to change. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. It shows up for a reason, and that reason is not to block you, it's to reveal where growth is. Waiting. Every time you feel fear, something important is standing in front of you, something that matters, something that has the power to change your direction, expand your limits, and push you beyond the version of yourself you've been comfortable with. But most people misunderstand. They treat it like a warning to retreat, a message that says, don't go there, it's dangerous. So they stop, they hesitate, they turn around and go back to what feels safe. And in doing so, they stay exactly where they are, repeating the same patterns, living the same limits, never discovering what they are actually capable of. Fear is not there to stop you. It is there to test you. It tests whether you will trust your comfort or your potential. It tests whether you will listen to your doubts or your vision. It tests whether you are willing to step into uncertainty for the sake of something greater. Think about it. Every meaningful step in your life has fear attached to it. Starting something new, taking a risk, speaking up, changing direction. All of it comes with uncertainty. All of it triggers that internal resistance. But that resistance is not the enemy. It is the doorway. If there is no fear, there is no growth. If everything feels easy and familiar, you are not expanding. You are maintaining. And maintaining will never take you to the next level. You have to change your relationship with fear. Instead of asking, how do I avoid this? Start asking, what is this trying to show me? Because fear often points directly at the areas where you need to grow the most. It highlights your insecurities, your doubts, your limits, and gives you a chance to confront them. The moment you start seeing fear as a guide instead of a barrier, everything shifts. You stop running from it. You start moving toward it, not recklessly, not blindly, but intentionally. With awareness, with purpose, there will still be discomfort. Your heart will race. Your mind will try to pull you back. It will create stories, worst-case scenarios, reasons to quit before you even begin. That is what fear does. It exaggerates risk and minimizes possibility. It focuses on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. And if you allow those thoughts to control you, you will never move. You will stay trapped in preparation, waiting for a version of yourself that feels completely ready. But that version does not exist. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to act despite it. You do not eliminate fear before you take action. You take action, and through action, fear loses its power. Every step you take weakens it. Every time you move forward, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling more than you thought. At first, it feels overwhelming. But then something changes. What once scared you becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes achievable. Not because the situation changed, but because you changed. You built resilience, you built confidence, you built trust in yourself, and that trust becomes your foundation. Because once you realize that fear is not fatal, that it does not define your limits, that it cannot actually stop you unless you let it, you become free to act. You stop waiting for fear to disappear. You stop trying to feel completely safe. You accept that discomfort is part of the process, and you move forward anyway. This is where growth accelerates. This is where progress becomes real. Not when everything is easy, but when you are willing to face what is difficult. There will always be another level, another challenge, another situation that brings fear back into your life. That does not mean you are going backwards. It means you are moving forward into new territory, and each time fear appears, you have a choice. You can interpret it as a stop sign and retreat, or you can recognize it as a signal and advance. The difference between those two choices is everything, because one keeps you safe and stuck. The other moves you forward into a life that most people never reach. Not because they are incapable, but because they refuse to face what scared them. You are not here to stay small. You are not here to live within limits created by fear. You are here to expand, to grow, to push beyond what is comfortable and step into what is possible, and that begins the moment you stop seeing fear as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to follow. Your current situation is not your final identity. It may feel permanent, it may look overwhelming, it may even convince you that this is all you are, but it is not. What you are experiencing right now is a moment, a phase, a chapter. It is not the definition of who you are, and it is definitely not the limit of who you can become. Too many people make the mistake of tying their identity to their circumstances. They look at where they are and assume that is who they are. If they are struggling, they call themselves weak. If they fail, they label themselves a failure. If they feel lost, they decide they have no direction. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to live inside those labels as if they are permanent truths. But circumstances change. Situations evolve, conditions shift, and the only thing that determines whether you rise with those changes or stay stuck beneath them is how you see yourself. If you define yourself by your current situation, you trap yourself inside it. You stop imagining something better. You stop working towards something greater. You begin to accept limitations that were never meant to be permanent. You have to separate who you are from where you are. Where you are is temporary. Who you are is still being built. Right now, you may not have the results you want. You may not have the confidence you desire. You may not be living the life you envisioned. But none of that defines your potential. None of that determines your future. It only reflects your current position in the process. And every process has stages. No one starts at the top. No one begins with mastery. Every person who has achieved something meaningful has gone through phases of uncertainty, struggle, and growth. The difference is they did not allow those phases to define them. They did not look at a temporary setback and turn it into a permanent identity. They understood something powerful. You can be in a difficult situation without becoming a limited person. You can be struggling and still be strong. You can be learning and still be capable. You can be starting and still be powerful. But that requires a shift in perspective. It requires you to stop focusing on what is missing and start focusing on what is possible. It requires you to stop repeating the story of your current situation and start creating the story of your future identity. Because identity is not fixed. It is formed through decisions, through actions, through the standards you choose to live by every single day. If you keep acting like the person you have been, you will keep getting the results you have now. But if you start acting like the person you want to become, even before the results appear, everything begins to change. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. It will feel unnatural. Because you are stepping outside of the version of yourself that has been shaped by your current circumstances. But that discomfort is necessary. It is a sign that you are breaking out of old patterns and creating new ones. You have to be willing to outgrow your environment, your habits, and even your own past thinking. You have to be willing to see yourself differently before the world reflects that difference back to you. Because the world responds to who you are becoming, not who you used to be. There will be moments when your situation tries to pull you back, when your surroundings, your challenges, and your doubts try to remind you of where you came from. But you cannot allow that to define where you are going. Why? You have to hold a stronger vision of yourself than the reality you are currently living in. That vision becomes your anchor. It keeps you focused when things feel uncertain. It keeps you moving when progress feels slow. It reminds you that what you are building is bigger than what you are experiencing right now. And over time, your actions begin to align with that vision. Your habits change. Your mindset strengthens. Your confidence grows. Not because your situation magically improved, but because you refuse to let it define you. That is where transformation begins, not when everything is perfect, not when all the obstacles are gone, but when you decide that your current reality is not your final identity and you start showing up as the person you are becoming consistently, intentionally, and without hesitation, because eventually your external world will catch up to your internal shift. Your results will begin to reflect your new identity. And the situation you once thought defined you will become nothing more than a reminder of how far you have come. But that only happens if you stop seeing your current position as your permanent place and start recognizing it for what it truly is, a starting point for something greater. Discipline builds confidence, not words, not hype, not temporary motivation. Discipline. The quiet, consistent, often uncomfortable act of doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. That is where real confidence is created, not in moments of excitement, but in moments of commitment. Most people think confidence comes first. They believe they need to feel ready, feel strong, feel certain before they take action. But that is the illusion that keeps them stuck, because confidence is not the starting point. It is the result. It is earned through action, through repetition, through proving to yourself again and again that you can be trusted to follow through. Every time you say you are going to do something and you don't do it, you weaken your own trust. You send a message to yourself that your words do not matter, that your intentions are empty, and over time that creates doubt. Not because you are incapable, but because you have trained yourself not to believe in your own commitments. But discipline changes that. Discipline is keeping your word when it would be easier to break it. It is showing up when you are tired, when you are distracted, when you would rather do anything else. It is choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort again and again until it becomes part of who you are. And every time you follow through, something powerful happens. You build evidence, evidence that you can rely on yourself, evidence that you are capable of doing hard things, evidence that you are not controlled by your moods or your circumstances. That evidence becomes confidence, not loud, not arrogant, but solid, steady, unshakable, because now your belief in yourself is not based on hope. It is based on proof, personal proof, the kind that nobody can take away from you because you created it through your own actions. You have to understand that discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. There will be days when you don't perform at your best, days when your energy is low, when your focus is weak. But discipline is not about waiting for perfect conditions. It is about showing up anyway and doing what you can with what you have. That is how you build momentum. That is how you create progress that lasts. Most people avoid discipline because it feels restrictive. It feels uncomfortable. It requires effort without immediate reward. But what they don't realize is that discipline is actually what creates freedom. Freedom from doubt, freedom from inconsistency, freedom from the cycle of starting and stopping, because when you are disciplined, you are no longer controlled by how you feel. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need to negotiate with yourself. You have already decided who you are and what you do, and you act accordingly. That decision simplifies everything. You wake up and you move. You have a task and you complete it. You face resistance and you push through it. Not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. And over time, those small acts of discipline begin to stack. They create a pattern of reliability, a pattern of strength, a pattern of execution, and that pattern becomes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries, and you start seeing yourself as someone who does, someone who follows through, someone who finishes what they start. That identity is powerful, because once you believe that about yourself, your actions align with it automatically. You no longer question whether you can do something. You focus on how you will do it. There will still be challenges. Discipline does not remove difficulty. It prepares you for it. It gives you the structure, the mindset, and the resilience to handle whatever comes your way. And when challenges come, you do not collapse. You do not quit. You adjust, you adapt, and you continue, because you have built something stronger than temporary emotion. You have built a system, a standard, a way of operating that does not change based on external conditions. And that is where confidence reaches a different level, not fragile, not dependent, but grounded. You trust yourself because you have proven to yourself that you will act no matter what. And once that trust is established, there is nothing left to question. Act like the person you want to become. Not tomorrow, not when things are easier, not when you finally feel ready, right now. Because the version of you that you are waiting for is not going to appear out of nowhere. That version is built through your daily actions, your decisions, your standards. And if your actions don't change, your identity will not change either. Most people think transformation starts with results. They believe once they achieve something, they will become someone new. But the truth is the opposite. You become someone new first. through how you think, how you act, and how you show up, and then the results follow. If you want to be disciplined, you cannot wait to feel disciplined. You act with discipline. If you want to be confident, you cannot wait for confidence to appear. You act with confidence. If you want to be focused, driven, successful, you act like it long before it becomes comfortable. This is where most people hesitate, because acting like the person you want to become requires you to step into discomfort. It requires you to leave behind habits that feel familiar and adopt behaviors that feel unfamiliar. It requires you to move without the safety of your old identity. At first, it will feel like you are forcing it, like you are pretending, like you are not fully that person yet. And that is true, you are not yet. But that does not mean you cannot start behaving like that person now. Every identity is built through repetition, through consistent action over time. The more you act in alignment with the person you want to become, the more natural it becomes. The more natural it becomes, the more it becomes who you are. But if you keep waiting until it feels natural, you will never begin. You have to set a higher standard for yourself, a standard that is not based on your current habits, but on your future identity, a standard that challenges you to rise above your comfort zone, to make better decisions, to operate with intention instead of reaction. Ask yourself a simple question. What would the person I want to become do in this situation? And then do that, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it requires more effort, even if it feels unfamiliar. Because every time you make that choice, you are reinforcing a new version of yourself. You are telling your mind, this is who I am becoming. And your mind begins to adapt. Your habits begin to shift. Your actions begin to align. This is not about perfection. It is not about getting everything right from the beginning. It is about direction. It is about consistently choosing the version of yourself that is stronger, more focused, more disciplined. There will be moments when you fall back into old patterns, moments when you act like your old self. That is part of the process. But what matters is that you recognize it, correct it, and return to the standard you have set, because identity is not built in a single moment. It is built over time through repeated choices. You cannot separate who you are from what you do daily. Your actions are your identity in motion. They are the evidence of who you are becoming. If your actions reflect doubt, hesitation, inconsistency, that is the identity you are reinforcing. But if your actions reflect discipline, focus, and commitment, even in small ways, that is the identity you are building. And over time, those small actions compound. They create a shift. Not just in what you do, but in how you see yourself. You begin to think differently. You begin to carry yourself differently. You begin to approach challenges with a different mindset, because now you are no longer trying to become that person. You are becoming that person. And once that shift happens, everything else follows. Your results, your environment, your opportunities, they begin to align with the identity you have built, not because of luck, not because of chance, but because you made a decision to stop waiting and start acting, to stop hoping and start doing, to stop imagining and start becoming. And it all started with one simple choice: to act like the person you want to become before the world had any evidence to prove it. You started with nothing but a decision. No proof, no guarantees, no applause, just a choice to believe, to act, to move forward when it would have been easier to stay the same. You faced your own mind and refused to let it control you. You stopped waiting for validation and gave it to yourself through action. You showed up when motivation disappeared, when fear got louder, when your situation tried to convince you to quit. And through all of that, you built something most people never do. You built yourself, not the version shaped by comfort, doubt, or delay, but the version forged through discipline, consistency, and courage. The version that doesn't wait to feel ready. The version that doesn't ask for permission. The version that moves forward no matter what, because now you understand something powerful. Results don't create belief. Belief creates results. Confidence doesn't come before action. It is built through it. And your identity is not something you find. It is something you decide and then prove every single day. So when the world looks at you later and sees the outcome, the success, the progress, they won't see the battles you fought in silence. They won't see the days you showed up when it was hard, when it was boring, when it felt like nothing was changing. But you will know that every step mattered, every decision mattered, every moment you refused to quit mattered. And that is what makes you different. Because while others were waiting, you were building. While others were doubting, you were acting. While others were stopping, you kept going. This is not the end of your journey. This is the standard you carry forward. A standard that says you do not go back to who you used to be. A standard that says you keep growing, keep pushing, keep becoming. No shortcuts, no excuses, no limits, just action, just focus. Just relentless commitment to the person you have decided to become.